Hi guys, it's Mark Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, also known as Mark Zicree of Space Command. And as you can see from the sign, we of the Writers Guild are now on strike. Now I wanted to talk to you about what that means and why we have a guild and how it affects Space Command. So here we go. Originally, when movies were being made, the studios could determine what they paid people, how they credited people or failed to credit them, who got hired, who got fired, and so forth. There were no residuals. Basically, the studios called the tune. And it was a great century of unionization across many, many different trades and crafts, and American unions were very, very powerful to the benefit of many people. So over many decades, people were able to buy houses, build careers, send their kids to college, have pensions, have health care, all of those wonderful things. And then over the last several decades, that's been rolled back, sadly, and kids are not taught about the benefit of a union in school, unfortunately. Though I was, interestingly enough, I was educated during the 60s and 70s and got a very good education in terms of consumer protection and unionization and the internment of Japanese Americans and all that stuff. It was really good. But one of my goals was to join the Writers Guild because I knew, having studied it, the history of the Writers Guild basically coming through hard-won fights, getting to protect writers who were writing for studios and networks. Now, when I started in animation, many of the shows were not covered by the Writers Guild. They were covered by IATSE, which is a whole nother story, but we had no residuals, no pension and health. They could dictate what they paid. I fortunately rose very quickly, so I was being paid very well, triple what other writers were getting, but it was still a job rather than a career. You went from gig to gig to gig to gig, and that was how it worked. And I learned my craft, but I was longing to get into the Writers Guild, to get into live action and have those protections. And within a few years, I did join the Writers Guild. I did start writing for live action shows, Friday the 13th series, and Star Trek The Next Generation, and Babylon 5, and Sliders, on and on and on. And so the great part was I would get residuals, which means that every time a show ran, I would get residuals. I still get residuals, though they're smaller and smaller and smaller. But also I have a pension. I have health care for life. I mean, many wonderful things because I was in the Writers Guild. And I'm very grateful. And anytime someone was not paying me on time or paying me at all, I would call the guild and they would get into it and I would get my money very quickly. So I love the Writers Guild, and I'm very, very proud to be a member of the Guild. Now, as a result of this, there have been various times that we've had go on strike. Now, usually it's when a new genre, a new substrata of television is being created, and the studios and the networks claim, well, this isn't making any money, so we can't pay you what we paid you for a broadcast network. And that happened with cable. Now it's happening with streaming. Still, amazingly, the studios and networks keep thriving and gaining more money, and their executives are being paid hundreds of millions of dollars. Like 8 guys are getting paid over $700 million. So, it's pretty crazy. And so writers in recent times, there would be smaller writers' rooms or no writers' rooms, or the writers would be cut off before the show went into production. Many, many egregious things. Or writers would be asked to work for free, which is really untenable. And unfortunately, I was not being hit with all that, but I certainly care about all of that, not just for me, but for my brothers and sisters in the guild. And the first Writers Guild strike I was part of was 1987-88. It ran for 6 months. That's a very long time to be without earnings. But fortunately, I was coming off Friday the 13th series as a story editor, so Elaine and I were able to weather the storm. Many people I know went broke, lost houses, all sorts of things happened. And it was a long, long time. And when I came back to Paramount, my job was no longer there because they said, well, we don't need you anymore. Okay, because we'd been gone for so long. Now, fortunately, I was able to jump onto other pilots and other TV series, and my career did just fine. But I recognize that a strike is no laughing matter. And the second strike I was involved in was the 2007-2008 one, which only lasted for 100 days, much shorter. And now there's the current one. So, so basically I stand in solidarity with all of my fellow guild members. We're picketing at all these different venues, and I will definitely do a Mr. Sci-Fi from the picket line at some point soon. But meantime, I just wanted to let you know that we are able to continue with Space Command, and the reason is because we haven't sold the show yet. We haven't sold it to a network or a studio. We can't do that during the strike. But, we've raised money through crowdfunding, and we have our own studio, and we can direct and produce and do all that stuff, and we are rolling camera in the next few weeks, and our plan is to shoot the entire season, but we are not, our revenue stream is from you guys, from the fans, and that allows us to produce essentially what's a spec TV series, and then attempt to sell it once we have the first season done. So just want to let you know that we will be continuing to work on Space Command. It's a joy for all of us. We've shot 95% of Space Command Forgiveness. We just have the final few days of shooting left to complete principal photography. We have visual effects shots being generated, much more. So anyway, so we're going to talk to you again very, very soon, but I just wanted to check in with you and let you know. And the other thing in the Writers Guild strike, which is so science fictional, is a point of contention is whether or not AI will write TV and movie scripts. Now that's interesting because the studios and networks are not saying they won't do that. I have a solution to that, which I have to share with my fellows in the guild, because the networks and studios refuse to say that. But I think a solution would be that you cannot give an AI a human pseudonym. So in other words, you can't say Paul Smith wrote it when it was a computer. Because I think most people, if they saw that a computer wrote a TV episode or a computer wrote a movie, they would feel kind of creepy about it because there was no creative spark to it. It would just be basically shaking the elements and, disgorging them. But I, fortunately, because my fans are my fans, because they like what Elaine and I do, and what our cast does, we're not going to be replaced by AI. Whereas other writers, more anonymous, less branded, less successful, could easily find their jobs supplanted by machines, and that would really be a shame, because one of the great things about writing is that writers can come up with things that the audience doesn't yet know that it wants, but once it sees it, it wants it. And it's not a manipulation. It's not like some prepackaged political speech where they're just pushing the buttons of the audience. They're actually coming up with new and fresh and wonderful stories to tell that can inspire us and make the world a better place. So anyway, so just support your local writer and make sure that they're fed and clothed and housed and kept warm and out of the rain and all of that stuff. And if you see the strikers picketing a studio or a network, honk and let them know you support them. And you can even bring them donuts or water or tacos or whatever. Everything is greatly appreciated. And also if you have a writer or whose work you love, let them know. Send them a message via Instagram, Twitter, whatever, and let them know you value them, because it really means a lot to all of us. That's it for now. We'll talk again really soon. Bye, guys.